Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I'm Phil. That's Sam.
Hey guys, welcome back. We are Bars and Barbells.
Today we're doing Why Are British Place Names So Hard to Pronounce? And I'm interested to check this one out because I agree. Sometimes I look at the names of places in Britain and I'm like, how the hell did you come up with that? How is it pronounced that way? And I have experienced this somewhat through my watching of English Premier League and seeing some of the teams, the names of the cities and stuff. And I'm like, what do you mean? That's what, you pronounce that as that. And I can't remember anything specifically, but I did play a lot of FIFA growing up as well. So when I'm like younger, I'm like saying these names and it's probably completely incorrect.
Just butchering them.
So now I'm probably going to be reminiscing on that time period and be like, yeah, that was totally incorrect. But Sam, are you looking forward to it?
I am. I don't really have too much experience like off the top of my head of thinking of things that are super hard to pronounce, but I'm sure that there are lots of them. Or I just think that things are pronounced a certain way and I just never realize that they're not.
Yeah. I think one of them might have been like, it's Leicester, so like kind of the way it looks like it's spelt, but it's actually pronounced Leicester. I don't know if that's going to be on here or not.
Yeah, like weird spelling that does not align with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyways,
true.
Let's not speculate any further. If you liked the video, hit the like button. If you want to subscribe, we want to have you hit the subscribe button now. Let's get into why are British place names so hard to pronounce.
British place names can be tricky to pronounce.
Take this place. Looks simple. But what if we told you it was pronounced Grimis?
We'd be lying, it's Grimsby.
But other places can be genuinely fiddly for foreigners.
And tourists who get it wrong risk being imprisoned or killed.
In today's programme, we're going to ask why British place names are so hard to pronounce.
Is there an and coming?
No, I'm done.
Welcome to Map Men.
We're the men.
And here's the map.
Map men, map men, map, 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 map men, men.
There are difficult to pronounce place names all over the world.
California has Zizix, Slovenia has Ptuj, Greenland has...
Check your tarsuit shot.
Even Welsh natives struggle with this one.
And tonight we can expect to see heavy showers spreading from the west into...
There's no way that's real. That's not
Wales.
real.
But deliberately hard to pronounce names invented for promotional purposes like Llanfai Pwchwyn Gwchgogerachwyn Droboclantisil Gogogoch aside,
Show off.
British place names cause more trouble than most because they often look straightforward but contain nonsensical phonetic traps that are impossible to predict.
Try this one.
Go on, say it out loud, in your room or on your train.
Ha 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 ha! Wrong, it's not Frome.
F-R-O-M-E, it should be blitheringly obvious, is pronounced Froome.
But if you did say Frome, don't worry, you're in good company. Frome is officially the most mispronounced place name in Britain, and that's according to a proper survey.
Excuse me, could you mispronounce Froome for me?
Portsmouth.
That'll do.
There's nothing more fun than laughing at tourists who don't know how to say something properly simply because they're from a different country and could never reasonably be expected to have predicted a local pronunciation that contradicts the basic rules of language.
So, we've created the perfect travel agent's itinerary for maximising tourist humiliation across the country.
Starting in Biaulio,
Beauty,
head over to Rampisham,
Ransom,
then down to Mousehole.
Mousehole,
Next, travel north up to Towcester,
Toaster,
then a quick jaunt to Gotham,
Gotham,
followed by a stop in Quernmore,
Quorma,
before finishing up in Alnwick.
Alnwick, which is near Newcastle.
Or, as the people from the city itself say, Newcastle.
When will they learn? As you can hear, no letter of the English alphabet is safe from being pronounced any of dozens of different ways.
Including not at all.
Thankfully, there are some general rules you can stick to, and because we're nice, we'll help the un-British amongst you through a couple of basics.
Cester is pronounced stir.
Leicester, Worcester, Gloucester.
W at the start of the final syllable is silent.
Norwich, Berwick, Southwark.
ER is pronounced R.
Berkshire, Clerkenwell, Hertfordshire.
But before you get too reassured, for every rule in the English language there are always exceptions, such as the cester in
Cirencester,
the W in
Sandwich,
and the sound in
this is disgusting. Oh, sorry, Berkhamsted.
which is in Hertfordshire.
The only way to be absolutely
so
sure of
confused.
pronouncing British place names
So
correctly
fast.
is to live here long enough to learn every single one of them one at a time. Sorry.
So who were the complete anchors that invented these rules?
Tell me.
It's time for an English lesson.
To make an English language, you start with the base of Germanic Anglo-Saxon. Mix in a healthy dash of Old Norse, a huge dollop of Norman French, and just a barely detectable hint of Celtic. Trust me, it'll make all the difference. Stir it up for hundreds of years until the vowels really start to shift, and then...
It's all messed up, but it's beautiful at the same time.
English.
Excitingly, by looking at a map of Britain today, we can clearly see which invaders influenced our language where by plotting the origins of British place names. This marvellous, messy, multicoloured map shows which languages different British place names belong to and is a living history of our early settlers and
that's cool.
subsequent invaders.
The oldest place names here are of Celtic origin. This is where you'll find all the place names with words like Tre, Loch, Bryn and Aber,
Such as Aberystwyth, meaning the mouth, Aber, of the River Istwyth.
which coincidentally is exactly where we find Aberystwyth today.
Celtic languages were once spoken all across the British Isles, but are now reduced to a small minority of mountain dwellers. And that's because low-lying Middle England Brits turned out to be more worse at resisting invading armies.
First up were the Romans, who brought in Britain's Latin influences.
Like the rumba.
No, like boring Latin. Anywhere that ends in cast
I don't know how much coffee these guys have had before this video, but they are on point with
They're
hammering out this information
so
very quickly.
fast.
Yeah.
Pew, pew, pew.
Yeah.
Rapid fire.
So they did
I'm going to need
mention
to watch this like 16 times.
they did mention Leicester in there, which doesn't make any sense, but yeah.
Yeah. No, there's a bunch of them that like the pronounce like that similar pronunciation.
Yeah, there was a couple of them like I'm like okay, I recognize that or that makes sense, and there's other ones that we've gone through and I'm like, what? I need to, like you said, watch this again to take it all in because they're going quite quick. But it does make sense and it is pretty interesting, you know, how the cultural influence of, you know, where people have come from
Yes.
different parts of the world have influenced why the language is what it is, and you know, you can't say that for a lot of places on the map, right?
No,
in terms
for sure.
of the globe.
Yeah, like how they were talking about the difference of like the Celtic influence or like, you know, the Welsh influence or all these different influences because they're all going to have a different language, it's going to pronounce things differently, and then that gets meshed into English, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so the map men are
Even their intro, I was like, I also like how they have this like dead humor. It's like it's obviously supposed to be comedic, but
Yeah.
it's so serious.
yeah, agreed.
It's like very dry.
who brought in Britain's Latin influences.
Like the rumba.
No, like boring Latin. Anywhere that ends in caster, cester, chester, or xeter was a Roman fort, from the Latin word castra, meaning Roman fort.
But the Romans didn't stay long, so although their naming system was long-lasting, the actual names they used weren't, which is perhaps unsurprising when we learn they used names like Castra Exploratorum and Belgic Oppidum.
Which was sensibly renamed Braintree.
Next, in light pink, we have the biggest group, Germanic Anglo-Saxon.
Any place
Anglo-Saxon.
containing the words Ham, Hurst, Lee, Bury, Ford, Port, Mere, Stead, Tunstall, Wick, Witch, or Mere are of good old Anglo-Saxon origin and massively dominate southern England.
Like Buckingham.
Or a low-lying area of land belonging to an Anglo-Saxon called Bucca.
Perhaps the most upheavaling thing to happen to Britain's place names was the Vikings, who swept in from Scandinavia in the 9th century, committing brutal crimes including rape, pillage, and the renaming of small to medium-sized settlements.
You can tell a place was named by the Vikings if it ends in Thwaite, Thorpe, Kirk, or B.
Such as our old friend Grimsby. Named after an important Viking called Grim, famed for his infectious positive energy, Grimsby literally means Grim's village.
We're all familiar with these common settlement suffixes, but what's so striking is how clearly this map of Viking place names reflects the extent of the Viking invasions. You can practically see the exact location of the Danelaw dividing Viking and Anglo-Saxon England without needing to draw it on with thick red pen.
That's really
Following
cool.
all these invasions,
crazy.
Britain was littered with place names that originated in different languages and accents. But the final thing that would make its place names truly unpronounceable was time.
Over hundreds of years, locals who were too
People
busy
just
to
said it
pronounce all the
differently.
syllables in Cester reduced it to stir to save time. But they couldn't read or write, so the spelling stayed the same.
And while the English language has continued to gradually evolve, our place names haven't, resulting in a language landscape littered with phonetic booby traps.
But what about Froome? Which linguistic group is responsible for Britain's so-called hardest place name?
Unusually for a place name in England, Froome is from a surviving Celtic word, frama, which means fair, fine or brisk, probably describing the flow of its lovely river.
It's not really surprising that the oldest language in these islands is the one that's drifted the furthest from pronounceability.
So don't forget to join us for the next
Makes
episode
sense.
of Map Men.
Is that the end of your sentence?
Yeah, I'm done.
Golly darn tootin' gee whiz, hot diggity woo!
What are you doing?
I'm putting on an American accent to fool my computer into thinking I'm in America.
Yippee-ki-wee, buckaroo!
Why are you doing that?
Because I want to watch all my favourite programmes on Netflix.
You've already got Netflix.
Yes, but American Netflix has programmes that we don't get on UK Netflix, including curiously
Is this a
some British
VPN ad?
programmes. So that's why I'm doing this really convincing accent so that my computer will let me access all the content I want.
Zippity-doo-dah, gosh darn it, yeehaw!
Suit yourself.
Hey, wait, aren't you going to tell me that's a really silly thing to do and instead I should use Surfshark?
Oh, we're doing an advert. Surfshark is an app and browser extension to see broadcast and those from across stuff on your data. Do you the code map? Surfshark sounds.
All right.
They're funny. I like them.
They're funny.
Yeah, they're jokes.
And did you find it educational?
I did, but like I said, it's very hard to absorb a lot of it because it was so quick. So I think I'm going to need to watch that a couple more times through to like really soak all of that in. But a lot of it makes logical sense, right? Like obviously the people that have been there the longest in terms of the roots, cultural roots, are going to be the most that the names that have shifted the most, because over time, like I thought it was really cool to see that list where it showed how different periods people were pronouncing it differently and how that evolved from like where it started to where it ended, which again, that makes sense, right? Also, a lot of the time, in historical time periods, a lot of people really couldn't read or write very well. So they were like, that wasn't probably documented very well and stuff like that.
Well,
So,
yeah, that's exactly how the pronunciations came to be what they are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that makes a lot of sense now when I look at words and I'm like, no, it should be pronounced this way, but we're saying it that way. It makes complete sense as to how we arrived at that point. Really cool as well, just the fact that historically it stays represented as it was, because it really preserves culture in a way and lets you go back in time and into history and like they talked about in this video, look at the Anglo-Saxons and
Yeah.
Celtic influence and all that. It's like you see that in the country itself, right? It's
Yeah.
just steeped in the history there, which
Yeah.
not a lot of places have that. And I think it's just it's cool that this places, the way they're pronounced or spelled, act as reminders of that, right?
For sure.
If you know your history, and now I do, I know it a lot more. But if you live there and you know your history about that city and kind of how it came to be, I think that's pretty cool, because not a lot of places in the world do you know that. It's just kind of the place you grew up and you don't know the significance of it, but just from the language alone you can derive that, which
Yeah.
is I learned a lot in this video.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool too when they showed the map and how you can really see based on the name of the place and the the pronunciation and stuff, like
Yep. How it's
who
divided up.
invaded where and
Yeah.
settled where, right?
Yep.
Like there's like a very clear division there, right? It's
Yeah,
between
and
like the Vikings and the Anglo-Saxons and the Celtic people,
Yeah.
right? So
And we did the history of England video, right, a while back. It's been a while now. And I remembered that it was all, because they were fighting back and forth
Yes.
between, the Vikings had entered at one point and the Anglo-Saxons came in another. And they really, each king had, different sections. And it was like, back and forth until it came to be what it is today. So,
yeah, I think the thing that's really cool too is that you'd think over time, because people who are, in charge or whatever have egos, right? So you'd think over time some of these would have been renamed to something that's more modernized or whatever, but it's still true to those time periods. Like basically those people, those Vikings who came and invaded and took over, like then went and named those places after what they wanted them to be named. And then once those Vikings left or migrated or whatever, like the English people could have
Yeah.
come and renamed it, but they didn't, right? They left it the way that it was.
yeah,
So,
well, it probably, has something to do with how long they were named that, because becomes difficult to keep renaming things because
Yes.
people are like, what do you mean? Where is that?
Yeah.
What's that place? No, that's
I'm
places.
renaming this after
It's
myself.
Grimsby. It's not that name, so
Grimm's Village.
yeah. Anyways, I like that. That was a great, informative video with some comedic presence
I
as
thought
well.
they did a good job.
And let us know if there's anything from what are they called? The Map
Men.
Yeah. I was going to say the
Map
Map
men,
guys.
map men.
But let us know if there's anything else we should check out from their channel, because obviously I'm sure they have more videos.
Mm-hmm.
But we appreciate everybody coming through on our channel. Make sure you hit the like button if you enjoyed this video so it reaches more people and we can grow this community. It's already a great community, but we'd love to have more people as a part of it. If you want to be a part of it, you should do what? They should do what?
Hit the like button and hit the subscribe button.
Yeah. And other than that, have a great day. We'll see you on our next video.
Thanks for watching.